Knon 89.3 FM in Dallas and Fort Worth, the voice of the people.
Business owners, tell KNON's listeners about your business. You can put your business or event on KNON. KNON currently has space available to run announcements for you. Tell KNON's listeners about your goods, services, nightclub, concert, or event. Help keep the voice of the people on the air while putting your information on the air. KNON's been named the #1 radio station in Dallas by both the Dallas Observer and D Magazine. Put your business with Dallas's #1 station. Call now for more information at 214-828-9500, extension 227, or extension 233. For more information, go to knon.org and click on the Run Spots on KNON page. It's a great way for your business to support community radio while letting more people know about you.
Good morning, it's the Workers Beat. 972-647-1893 is the number, and I'm here with the very beautiful
Bonnie Mathias. Thank you so much.
From CWA 6215. Here's what's going on. 10 o'clock today, pretty much right now. If you've not got your socks on yet, you better get them on. City Hall protests the privatization of schools.
Yep.
Take down the takeaway. And Reverend Marnett just rushed out of here because he was heading on down there. So please go to City Hall and protest the privatization of schools. While you're down there, sign my petition. It's a petition to the mayor saying, please back off on privatizing. And the mayor, as you know, is the main spokesperson for privatizing the schools. We're also afraid that he's going to welcome a group called ALEC to Dallas, and ALEC is an organization that is bound and determined to subvert everything decent in America. Come and stand in solidarity with the mothers and sisters who died on the job. This is Monday. I think Bonnie's going to be at this, aren't you, Bonnie?
This is
Workers' Memorial Day.
Yep, we have several things planned for Monday.
It's a short event to take place at 1408 North Washington at 6 p.m. Monday.
Yep.
Speakers will include Reverend Dr. Jorg Rieger of SMU, Bonnie Mathias of CWA, Local 6215, Mark York, Dallas AFL-CIO, and Rosemary Rieger of Job with Justice. People died on the job all the time, and we don't pay any attention to it until they started Workers' Memorial Day, which is every April 28th.
That's right.
Next Saturday, May the 3rd at 9 a.m., there will be a Get Out the Vote for to try to get union people to vote. It sounds like they would, it seems like union people would just be rushing to vote, but the truth is, we have these Get Out to Vote block walks. And that starts at the CWA Hall at 9 o'clock, 1408 North Washington, next Saturday.
Okay.
I got a bunch of more things for further down the line. May the 8th, Faith and Labor, What is the Connection? That's at 7 o'clock. That'll be at 1408 North Washington. Next Job with Justice meeting is May the 14th, 7 o'clock, 1408 North Washington. And on like that. May the 10th is a special day that everybody should pay attention to. That's when the National Association of Letter Carriers, in other words, the postmen, when they conduct the largest food drive in America. Unions do stuff for people, and the letter carriers do the largest food drive in America. All the food is kept locally, so don't worry about your food going somewhere else. It's going to go to the North Texas Food Bank. Just put it out with your mail. Wherever you put your mail, put your canned goods, your donations, or whatever you got, and that'll go to the North Texas Food Bank.
And if you don't feel comfortable leaving your stuff at the mailbox, because a lot of us have cluster boxes in the middle of the street, take it to the post office. They'll accept it right there at the post office.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Well, can you bring checks too? Because I'm always asking this. What if you bring it, just want to write a check to the North Texas Food Bank?
I don't think that would be a problem. We did that. CWA did that this last year.
Okay.
Yeah. Just make the check out to North Texas Food Bank.
And put it with your mail, with the canned goods and that sort of thing. All right. We have a very good postman where I live in Oak Cliff, so I'm sure it's taken care of. And now let us say good morning to Tina Gonzalez. Good morning, Tina.
Good morning, Jean. Good morning, Bonnie. Thank you for having me on the show.
You're so welcome. Jean introduced her this morning as his great-granddaughter.
Well, she's not really my great-granddaughter. I made
He's
that
not
up.
Really.
I just wish she were.
Yeah, because she's really cute.
I just made that up. I had you on because I got a call from Al Jazeera, the reporter from Al Jazeera, which is a new news network in the Dallas area, but it's famous for having been very honest in the Arab world when the Americans were doing their best to shut them down. There was a movie about Al Jazeera. I don't know if you ever saw it or not, but they were pretty scared the Americans were going to bomb them at one time.
Yeah.
for telling the truth in the Arab world. But they're here now, and they want to talk about what's going on in America, especially among low-wage workers. And Tina, do you qualify as a low-wage worker?
I most definitely do. I am a full-time waitress. I work 40 hours a week, and I get paid $2.55 an hour.
$2.55 an hour, brothers and sisters. 972-647-1893 if you want to say something about this.
Tip your
Of course, they tell you that, oh, you're going to make that up in tips.
Absolutely, they do say that. And you know what? You do, but when you make up the money in tips, all you're doing really is making $7.25 an hour. It's just making up for the part that's there for being paid minimum wage.
So,
and you don't even get paid those $2.55. When you get your check, they take away wherever you would have made at $7.25 and you report in tips. My checks are usually 60 cents, $1.50. Those are my checks that I get every week.
because if you reported your tips,
Exactly.
they take that out of your $2.55.
They do.
I had no idea.
And not only that, but the $1.60 that you get is the equivalent of, let's say I worked 40 hours a week, they total that up to $7.25. If I made more than that, then I don't get anything back, and I have to pay back the government at the end of the year. And it's just it's a ridiculous cycle. It's you're making just enough to live. You know, I'm a mother of a young 1.5-year-old. So I'm a full-time mom, a full-time employee, and I'm an activist in Dallas. You don't have a lot of time for anything. You know, if you either have to choose between raising your kid or feeding your kid, and I don't have a lot of time with her. I was just crying about it last night because I don't spend as much time with her because I can't make enough to be able to have more time with her.
And yet everybody says, well, the parents. When if some kid gets in trouble, they always say, the parents. And here you are, a single mother, trying to raise a 1.5-year daughter and can't even get above $7.25 an hour. Is that enough to live on?
It's enough to survive on. If you're making
But if you had your own, if you were living alone, if you had your own apartment and paid for all your own food and everything like that, is it enough?
Not at all. I have to have the help. I have, my daughter's dad, we live together, and he helps me out a lot. And if it weren't because we're doing this together, if it was just me by myself, I would not be able to pay for a $650 apartment. I would not be able to pay for the bills and the car payments and the baby stuff, the diapers.
In fact, everything you made, if you pulled it together, would barely make your rent.
Barely. Putting our money together, we barely make ends meet. We do. And people who make minimum wage, they're getting enough to survive, and this is only if they're working 40 hours a week. Not to mention those who are working less than 40 hours a week, because then you don't even have enough, which is most of them, because then you don't even have enough for anything, So, yes. And
I want to avoid the idea, just because you're young, Tina, that all young people, that all the people who make minimum wage are young. The fact is the average age is over 30.
That's right. And mostly women.
And mostly women who are trying to take care of their kids at the same time.
All of the employees at the restaurant where I work are above 30. I'm the youngest one there. I'm 20 years old, and everybody there is above 30. There's a guy there he's in his 50s. They're all working there for a minimum wage, trying to get their families along, and they all have very big families. So it's necessary for them to work, for their wives to work, for their older kids to work. I started working when I was 12 years old. Wow. My mom sent me out to the flea markets to work on the weekends so that I can make money for school and stuff that I needed.
Well, are you aware, of course, that there are some efforts now to raise the minimum wage?
Absolutely.
And what systems are you aware of, or what proposals are there that are out there that you've heard of?
I know there's a proposal to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. I think that's over several years. Yes, over several years,
absolutely.
It's not just
like all at once.
No, of course not. I know that there's been a lot of argument that, by raising minimum wage, then inflation will happen, and then prices will go up. Like if McDonald's pays their workers $15 an hour, then we won't have a dollar menu kind of thing anymore.
Oh, dang!
I know, right?
How awful!
But I don't think that's true. We've had.
No, it's not true.
We've had very many. Minimum. The minimum wage has been raised before, and that hasn't happened.
That's true. The people that figure these things out is that a hamburger would go up 8 cents. If they started paying their workers a reasonable wage.
Well, there goes that 99-cent hamburger.
Yeah. What they want to say is that if an employee gets a $3 raise, then you're going to have to pay $3 more for every hamburger, But that's not true. Those people, each one of them makes hundreds of hamburgers.
Well, the people will be making more money, which means they have more money to spend, and putting more money into these, being able to buy more. And so there's going to be, that's ridiculous.
It creates more jobs.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
That's right.
But why? And I'm so happy. We have the Workers' Defense Project here in Dallas that works very hard on wage theft. Now Al Jazeera is coming in, and they're interested in it's so important that we draw people's attention to what minimum wage really is. It is not a bunch of high school kids working at McDonald's. It's people like you and me working just trying to make ends meet.
That's right.
We have got to get that stigma of it's just a bunch of high school kids. We've got to get that stigma out of people's heads.
972-647-1893 if you have an opinion or if you want to ask a question. Tina Gonzalez is actually an expert on working for minimum wage and trying to make a living, trying to raise children in America today. I know you're used to experts that have big bellies and long white beards, but the truth is the real experts are the people out there working and doing it. 972-647-1893. You don't get this kind of thing on other radio stations.
Nope.
We're going to be doing Fund Drive next week, and I want to point out that this is the program where the workers get to talk back. The New York Times reports that the American middle class, which is long the wealthiest in the world, has now fallen behind Canada. Several European middle classes are catching up to the United States too. So don't keep thinking that people in the United States are better off than other places. Actually, there's more poverty here. The low-wage workers here suffer more, and even the so-called middle class, or what I call middle income, is falling behind really, really bad.
Yep.
Now, the solution on the minimum wage business, Tina, is to raise the minimum wage, right?
Right.
Because there's not any individual restaurant owner who can just say, okay, well, I'm going to start paying $10 or $12 an hour, because then they wouldn't be competitive with the other small restaurants. So a small business owner is not his or herself going to be able to make this difference. That's why it takes action from the government.
Absolutely. It's going to take a nationwide higher minimum wage, not just small business. Yes, it'll help the people in that small business, but we need it nationwide. The competition's just not going to happen like that. And so in order for it to happen, it would have to be everyone around it, starting with the big corporations like Walmart, starting with Google.
Let's see what Sandra has to say. She's online. Good morning, Sandra. Thanks for calling KNON.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
I wanted to sympathize with the young lady there. I worked my way in high school and through college waiting tables.
Oh, thank you, Sandra.
But something that's questioning me or puzzling me right now is this big effort to hire youth for summer jobs. Reverend Haynes just announced a big grant that he got to hire so many high school students for the summer.
Good.
And the very first job that I ever had was a professional job after I graduated from school, was called CETA. And every summer we would hire, 500 kids. And what I observed, when those kids got their paycheck, they bought, in today's time, $200 tennis shoes, $500 cell phones, and things like that. And then when they graduated from school, they couldn't read, write, or get a job, and they went to stealing because they had acquired this taste. Do you think we would do better if we would use that same money and hire some of the unemployed parents and try to train them as opposed to whetting the appetites for material things with these kids?
All right. Sandra, we may have to take that up after the break because we're heading right on into a break. Thank you so much for calling KNON. Listen for Tina after this. Now I'm on.
And now we're on Saturday morning.
972-647-1893. Tina, we had a question a while ago as to whether or not young people have an appetite for luxury goods. And is that a bad thing? Do they have an appetite for luxury goods?
This is from Miss Sandra, who just called in. Thank you for the question. I can't really answer that question just because I have never met a kid who has been in that situation, or wants to buy. You don't know
anybody that has a taste for luxury
not
goods.
At all. I don't know anybody like that. So
well, she was talking about a different period in time.
Probably.
A few years ago, you could not only you have a taste for luxury goods, but you could actually get some.
Yeah, I have a phone without a back right now. I don't have that luxury to just go around buying $500 phones, and kids who do are because their daddies and mommies have lots of monies.
That's the ones that don't go to jail for killing 4 people. They go to rehab.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want to point out that the answer is a raise in the minimum wage. That's what it comes down to, and this is the line that divides the 1% from the rest of us. The rest of us, almost every working person in America is in favor of increasing the minimum wage. The bosses are unanimously opposed to it, just as they are opposed to anything else for workers. So the minimum wage is a dividing line. It's a really good way to tell who your friends are and who your enemies are. Just ask them how they feel about the minimum wage.
Oh, yes.
You can tell which side they're on. But how do we get a change in the minimum wage? And how do we get the other solutions that are being posed? I don't know if you saw the full-page article yesterday about a French economist has a new book. I think his name is Kettle or something like Per Kettle or something like that. And he says that the thing that we need to do in America because of the gigantic wealth gap, he says, is we need a wealth tax. In other words, a tax on just how much money you have socked away, or how many yachts, or how many mansions, or something like that. And he says this would be the solution. And I almost laughed out loud because how would we get that solution? See, the people that are so very, very wealthy also are the people with very, very much power. So they're not going to let us have a wealth tax, and they're certainly not going to be in favor of an increase in the minimum wage. So the question is, do we have any influence in America? 972-647-1893 is the number if you're interested. There's a study that I read about this in Al Jazeera. It says the American public has, quote, virtually no influence over politics. Virtually no influence over politics. They say that America has not yet become a complete oligarchy. Oligarchy means the same thing as monarchy, except with monarchy you just got one guy, mono, and oligarchy means you have a handful of guys, and they are guys, they're not women.
Mostly white guys.
They are generally
old
speaking,
white guys.
They are generally speaking old white guys. And an oligarchy is like just a handful of white people, like the 0.1% of the 1%, the richest people in America, that they can do anything. And you've seen them take over the election process just in the last couple of years. First, they got it passed that corporations could spend any amount of money on in an election, and then just a few weeks ago, the Supreme Court ruled that they could spend any amount of money, the total amount of money that they could spend.
Doesn't matter.
Directly to candidates is now, the lid is off. So the very, very wealthy can buy any kind of corrupt politician, and the more money there is, the more corruption there's going to be. So Al Jazeera has this great article. Says it's not just your imagination. The influence of money in politics has indeed drowned out the voices of American voters. A new analysis shows, with runaway corporate lobbying and a lack of campaign finance reform to blame for giving much more political weight to the wealthy. So the researchers were at Princeton University and Northwestern University. They compared the public influence on a bunch of policy issues between 1981 and 2002 and found that the interests of wealthy groups and individuals won out over the demands of the general public. The findings are consistent with the U.S. being an oligarchy. Oligarchy is increasing as economic inequality increases, and Congress and the Supreme Court dismantle regulations. Let's see what Andy has to say on line 2. Thanks for calling KNON, Andy.
Hello?
Is he there?
Andy, are you there?
Maybe I talked too long. Andy, call us again. How about Tony? Is he on 3? Good morning, Tony. Thanks for calling KNON.
Good morning. How y'all doing this morning?
Good. Glad to hear from you.
All right. Yes. I think part of the issue is that we don't understand what the economy is. 3/4 of the economy comes from us, the consumer. Businesses have gave us respect of that they run things. If you give us more money, we spend it. That's the way it is.
Uh-huh.
And the way I've heard conservatives say, well, they created a lot of jobs. That is true, but they're low-wage jobs.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I think Texas leads the nation in low-wage jobs.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yes.
So if you add to the check, then the economy starts growing to the point where people start getting more jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that another thing conservatives don't understand is that Texas is a take more from the government for subsidizing the poor than many other states. So, in one breath they say, well, but at the same time they take it, and then, because the argument of supply and demand. If we get more money and people at the bottom get more money, they spend most of their money anyway, which creates jobs. People who are rich save their money. They don't spend money in the economy.
That's right.
And the first thing they say is, well, rich people create jobs. No, that's not true. Businesses create jobs, not rich people. They might own them, but but businesses create jobs. And I think sometimes you got to separate, the language to understand that they really told us out there, Nick, the policies of the government, whether it's state, local, or federal, is business policies. And until the American citizens get tired of the local and state and federal being run by, like Gene said, by the oligarchs, guess what? They're going to keep telling us, hey, we need more productivity with less people, and at the same time, technology is taking jobs. So why not raise the minimum wage if technology and companies making billions of dollars and put them overseas? I'll leave you with that.
All right. I thank you so much.
Yeah.
Gina, you want to respond?
No, I think you're absolutely right. Yes, you're absolutely right. Thank you, Tony.
Yeah, that confirms
Yes, it does.
what we've been saying.
Okay, Josephine's been waiting. Let's put
sorry.
Josephine on. She's on line 4. Good morning, Josephine. Thanks for calling KNON. Did we lose her?
I don't know.
Okay, let's try Andy again on line 2.
He's gone.
He's
Okay.
gone.
There is some.
Somebody's blinking.
There's some good news out there. There really is.
What's the good news?
Well, a judge late yesterday afternoon, an Arkansas judge struck down the voter ID law
In Arkansas?
in Arkansas, saying it's unconstitutional.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, baby steps.
Yeah.
Because if the 99% vote,
We're
the
talking,
1%
generally
won't matter.
speaking, we're talking in general about the erosion of democracy. We're saying, first of all, we said that we need to raise the minimum wage and we need a wealth tax, but it's very, very hard to get those things when the 1% or the 1/10 of 1% is so powerful, and they're buying off the politicians, and their elections nowadays that used to be funded by $50 donations are now being funded by $50 million donations.
Wow.
Yeah.
And very hard. Line 2? Okay, thanks. KNON, thanks for calling KNON.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you great. The world is listening.
That lady that called earlier about the 500 teenagers that were fired and couldn't read and write.
Right.
I used to be, I believed that the way everything she was saying, I used to believe that because I was taught that. I was born into this world believing that, Texas, Well, let me tell you something. I kept having rethinking. Over there on next to Highway 75 and Park Lane.
Right.
When I used to pass through there's a drive-in to buy beer. You can drive in, and right next to it, and it's coming from that store. There's an illusion. There's some women in real hot pants, short shorts, and drinking like they're in a bar. And I used to think, wow, how come these leaders that go, that organize for that march for immigration, how come they don't do something about this, the Hispanic leaders? And then I had a wake-up call. Well, they didn't cause it. It was the people across on the other side of the highway. They made it. This is their creation. They caused it.
I see.
And with you know, she's trying to send a message, that woman, about the 500 kids, that, you know, like, you know, if you have a college degree, you get a better job and this and that. Yeah, fine. But what makes it okay if you don't have one and you have to go work in these low-paying jobs, but you never hear nothing about that you have to work in these low-paying jobs and make this employer as rich as he can because he deserves it, because you don't have a degree. That makes it okay, because you were blind. You were born into believing that. It is never okay to make somebody rich, you know, just because you don't have a degree. You have to read. You have to think back. Who came up with this? You know, and it was all. Huh?
Right on, Josephine.
Right on, Josephine.
Yeah, I mean, this state of Texas was so racist. It was they didn't even know about when the slaves were free to 2 years later. You know, after it was signed. You know, Lincoln signed the. Emancipation
Proclamation.
My caffeine hasn't kicked in. But you know what I'm talking about. That's all I want to say. That's it.
I think you made a great point, Josephine, that we are taught that this is okay.
We are.
What do you think, Tina?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I agree with Josephine. I think that we are raised from, you know, a young age to believing that in order to, and it's, if you don't go to school, you know, then you're just stuck with this just low-paying job, and then you're just supposed to accept that, and it's supposed to be okay because you didn't go to school. But that's I'm sorry, but that's bullshit.
Whoops.
Get your finger on the button over there, Nick.
Got it. It's okay.
Tina's fixing to get down.
You know, you're right. It's hard. You know, even corporate America, we as union members, we have good jobs.
Union members generally do.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the corporations we work for are continuously laying people off and putting more and more responsibility and more work on the
Not to
employees
mention
that are left.
the rally we had last week when AT&T, the mighty corporations making all kinds of money hand over fist, and they've decided they're just going to take away the health care of the retirees.
And
let's let Michael talk. He's been
Michael.
waiting. Michael's on line 3. Can you put him on? Thanks for calling KNON, brother.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Good.
Hey.
Okay, well, what incentive do those restaurants have to pay more as long as you can find people to work for that $2.50?
Mm-hmm. Let's ask Tina. What incentives did they give you to work for $2.55?
My options are limited. It's what it is, honestly. I mean,
you could starve. That was
that's your other option. You could starve. And you know what? Working as a waitress for $2.55 ensures you one thing, that you're gonna make daily tips. So really, I have an associate's degree in arts, emphasis in theater. I could be working a desk job. I could, but it's the idea that, you know, you get some sort of income coming into your home every day. So if I only have $1 in my pocket, I'll go to work for a few hours and end up with, you know, $15 more.
Let me get this right. You got a degree in something and you're not pursuing it, huh?
It's not that I'm not pursuing it, it's just that my degree is in Associates of Arts, emphasis in theater. With an Associates of Arts, emphasis in theater, all you can do from there is get a bachelor's degree in Associates in theater in order to create something out of it.
So that first degree ain't worth nothing.
It's not, you know, and it really sucks
because... I get it.
Yeah.
It's worth it to her. It was worth it to her to get it.
No, and you know what? It's worth it now because now, you know, I'm 2 years ahead of where I was 2 years ago.
I call them degree of difficulties. All those folks in Washington got degrees. Look how messed up the country is.
Yes.
Some of the richest people.
Yeah, but look how rich they are.
But some of the richest people in the world don't have degrees. Bill Gates dropped out. Mark Zuckerberg dropped out of college. They ain't got no degrees.
Got millions and millions of dollars now.
You know, so what if people quit going to those restaurants? They can't they can't serve, the owners can't wait on all the customers they sell, so they might be forced to pay a decent wage. But as long as they can find somebody accepting $2.50, I probably would keep hiring them too.
Yeah. So the answer probably is for everybody to go on strike.
I agree.
I mean, you know, this is the only way corporations the only way they gonna listen, of course, when you hurt their pockets, or if you quit buying their products, they can't eat all those lunches they sell. And you don't make money if you're buying your own product. If I sell a product and I'm the only one buying it, I'm not making no money.
Yeah, Michael, let me ask you something. Do you think the American people have more power now or less power?
The American people ain't got nothing, no kind of power.
They're out of it,
have been brainwashed. You know,
Okay.
I mean, there's some people that vote. I mean, but I'm surprised. Arkansas is red now, and they turned down that voters.
That's right.
bill.
Yeah, but that's not the end of it. This will go on through different courts.
I mean, we're still stuck with it.
There have been several rulings like that, and ultimately, we're not winning in the courts. Ultimately, we are losing in the courts. Let's move on.
Thank you for the call.
Because we got other callers waiting. Can we put Yosef on? Okay. Thanks for waiting, Yosef, and thanks for calling KNON.
Good morning. My name is Yosef, and I'm from Arkansas. And I remember when I was working and I did the summer job, we used to have a thing called RVAC, where they would take the young kids, give them summer jobs. Now, I had to use my money to help out with my mom and my dad to pay bills. Unfortunately, I don't know what that lady was talking about, but if you got the money on hand and you're raised right, you're going to do what's best for your family. You're going to do what's best to help out the family, you know. But really, to tell you the truth, if America just simply would just say, you know what, we're not going to pay these prices. If you lower the prices, you won't have to raise the wage. But the gas is up, the food is up. They want to blame it on, the wars. They want to blame it on the oil. They want to blame it on this. The main problem is greed. We have a problem with greed. These corporations, they go to other countries, they make their product, they bring it back into the United States, and we buy it just like, Miriam Bob next door went and made it. And that's not the truth. Our problem is that we have a greed problem, and not only that, I think it's very conspiratorial that I'm sorry, I'm a conspiracy theorist. I think it's very bad where Miriam Barnett has to come on through the show and tell everybody to get downtown because they got this thing going on with the school, but at the same time, it's almost like it's planned because I know there's only 325 days in the year, but at the same time, they got Bishop Campbell down there with the miracle at noonday.
Okay, got to cut you off, though. It's break time. We have to take a break. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
We're back on KNON. This is the Workers' Beat. I'm Gene Lantz, Bonnie Mathias, and our guest is Tina Gonzalez, 972-647-1893. We're asking people if Americans have more say-so nowadays, or if we have less say-so.
Gene, I heard somebody tell me yesterday that they were comparing minimum wage to slavery, and it was a hard thing to hear, but it's true. Slaves worked, and in return for their work, they got a roof over their head and food. That's what they got in return.
Which is
minimum wage.
Which
is pretty much what we get. We work a full-time job for minimum wage, and all we have is a roof over our head and food.
That's it.
You have some rights as citizens, though. Randy's on line one. Put him on. Thank you.
Right.
Thanks for calling KNON.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
Good.
Randy, do we have more say-so nowadays, or less say-so?
Well, obviously, it's less since we've been classified as oligarchy now, which is not really funny. I mean, but it's sometimes a nation's existence follows a past nation's history in its own internal destruction, which I see that's kind of probably what's going on in America right now with the separation of our economy, where the small percentage holds the majority of the money, basically,
and power.
Controls how it spends, and has the power. When the majority of the people in America held more money than a small minority, then the people had the power. So, I guess, Gene, it's kind of doomsday speaking, but it's inevitable that this transfers this way for the people to finally stand up like they have in other parts of the world where they couldn't take their system holding them down anymore. So now they're in a struggle against the powers that be. But, the specific thing that this lady's talking about this morning, where a person is a waitress or a waiter serving people from the kitchen to the table, sometimes taking their money and giving them change, sometimes not. How is that any different than what the person does at McDonald's that takes the order at the counter and gives it to the cook, and then they take the food from the cook and gives it back and exchanges the money?
I think the tips are not very good at McDonald's.
Right. Well, and it's the chat.
Hold on. The lady at the counter is not getting paid $2.55.
She's not.
The corporation of McDonald's is somehow being required to pay those people, which are basically waiters and waitresses, right? They're taking the order, giving it to the cook. They're doing the same thing that Tina's doing, but they're being required to pay at least minimum wage. And I understand there's no tip issue, and Tina would rather work at a place where she's only getting $2.55 in theory versus getting minimum wage at McDonald's. So what my point is just like the immigrants in America have a tough time even getting minimum wage, there's a nation that's in even worse shape than them, and that's the Native Americans that's been basically imprisoned since the late 1800s. So the restaurant industry, where we're only paying $2.55, is basically the bottom of our, that's the most heinous part of our pay scale, is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm. Well, it applies also to agricultural workers.
Even if we get the minimum wage raised, which I support, to a living wage, we're still going to have this $2.55 hanging over our head. So yes. I think we need somehow concentrate on how we can change this $2.55 being allowed, because they're duping all of us. They're duping the people that are waiting. They're duping us as a customer, because they're making us as a customer through our grace and gratuities take up their slack to pay them minimum wage. So what's the law that was instated that allows restaurants, certain restaurants, not McDonald's or Burger King, that allows certain restaurants, what's the law that allows Tina to be only paid $2.55? And I'll hang up.
All right. Tina, you want to respond? Do you think he's right?
Yes, I think that even if the minimum wage is higher, then we'll still have the problem with the waiting game, just because it's always going to be like that with the tips and stuff. But I think that if the minimum wage were to be raised, then the minimum wage total with tips included reported should be raised, and will be raised as well for restaurants and tip.
Well,
wise.
actually, I think the proposal, the last one that I saw, Senator, what's his name, Harmon or Hartlett or something like that, and he does have a minimum wage proposal in the Senate right now, but it's not going to include. It's not going to include the people who are presently excluded. Now, we talked about food service employees not even getting the minimum wage,
right?
But farm workers are also exempt. So when you see those farm workers out in the field,
right,
you realize they're not even covered by the minimum wage.
No, they're getting paid by how much they...
And the corporations are all, the corporations never say, corporations want to make more money. What they say is, we want to help these poor people lift themselves up by their bootstraps, or something like that. 972-647-1893 is the number if you want to weigh in one way or the other.
JT on 2?
Say it again?
JT on 2.
Okay, JT's on 2. Thanks for calling Knon, brother.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you good. The whole world's listening.
All right, wonderful, wonderful. One of my favorite channels here. I worked in politics for a little bit. I know what's going on. There's the upper class is trying to take over. Okay, it's been happening.
You don't think they already took over?
They're over.
Huh?
You don't think they already took over?
Well, they haven't completely taken over.
Okay.
So, but they are doing it. The takedown of Glass-Steagall in 1999, which is the first thing that FDR did when he got into office, was separate the investment from the commercial banks. Meaning the investment bank can't be a commercial bank, which is insured by the FDIC, the taxpayer.
Okay.
So that's what happened with the mortgage-backed securities.
and all this mortgage fraud going on from 1999, from 2007, which collapsed the economy and required all this bailouts. Well, these people complain about paying a mother that doesn't have a job $800 a month for Social Security. They say it's they're entitlement programs. Well, these people lost hundreds of billions of dollars, and we're bailing them out. We're giving them free money.
Yeah, they do.
Every month. $75 billion a month.
Oh, you're talking about the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, the quantitative easing, the QE3.
I think they cut back on it some. It's not $75 billion anymore.
It's $75 billion now. It was $85 billion.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay.
So, and then with Obamacare, that's just a huge bailout to these insurance companies. It's a $1 trillion bailout every year. $1 trillion.
It's true. The insurance companies are the ones that get the money.
They get
come
the
right
money.
down to it.
They have the lobbyists, and what we have to do is go back to George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, FDR, and John F. Kennedy type politics. We have to go back to big, good government that protects humanity from these. That's the reason why George Washington created the Constitution, was to protect us from the British Empire. The empire being giant banks and giant taxes. That's what empire is. Empire is private corporations over government.
Well, they sure are taking over now, aren't they?
So they have, and we got to take back. We got to start running. We got to start running for Congress, and we got to get our neighbors together and start going after this thing.
Is the answer to organize? Is organizing the answer?
Yes, sir. Organized labor, organizing together.
I see.
You know, it's to get together with your neighbors and talk about, hey, how can we run for office? A girlfriend of mine ran against Chris Christie in New Jersey. Her name is Diane Sayre. She ran for governor. Okay, she raised over $10,000. Chris Christie spent $35 million in his campaign.
Wow.
$35 million for a job that makes $175,000 a year.
And that's more than they
so
make in Texas.
Yeah. So that's how we're going to bankrupt them, is that we all have to start running for Congress. Because these people are in Congress for a reason, because they got these big wars going on. I mean, they get a ton of money selling these military-industrial complex corporations like Raytheon, like Lockheed Martin. They're making hundreds of billions of dollars a year off this stuff. We got the insurance companies and their lobbyists. We got to pull the lobbyists out of government. That's just legalized prostitution. What the lobbyists doing are just giving these Congress people money. These Congress people are nothing but prostitutes.
And thieves. I was looking up a quote the other day. It said, not all rich men are thieves. Some of them are the sons of thieves.
That's true.
Well, yeah, you're exactly right, man.
All right, thanks, JT.
Hey, you're welcome. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you.
There's another vote on American people are losing power, that we don't have as much power as we used to. Tina, do you think so?
I agree. I think we have very little power, if any. I think we're losing more and more, and I think it's going to get to the state where corporations and the government are just going to control everything, every single aspect of it.
I've been sandbagging on this whole thing all along, because I asked the question originally because there was a study, researchers from Princeton and Northwestern, that said that American people are losing power, and that the oligarchs, in other words, a handful of rich white men, are taking over, and that they get what they wanted. They did 1,779 policy issues, and they checked to see who got their way. Was it the people or was it the oligarchs? And the oligarchs got their way every time during that period. And it's worse now because they're richer now. They've got trillions of dollars just socked away. And the Supreme Court has been just handing out the power, so that they've undermined our ability to win elections. They've undermined our ability through legal action to even sue. Like American citizens have the right to sue somebody, but not on a workers' comp case in Texas. If you get hurt on the job in Texas, you can't even get a lawyer. The lawyers won't take it because they set up the laws so that a lawyer could not make a living working as a workers' comp attorney, so they all just had to go out of that business. And so-called tort reform is just an attempt to curtail the American people's right to sue people, to sue corporations. And as we know, we've been losing out in the political sphere to the big money. So there's an answer to this. The answer is, first of all, it's a two-part answer. First of all, yes, we are losing power through the official channels. Our ability to sue, our rights as citizens, our ability to affect elections. Yes, we're losing out. But on the other hand, our ability to organize, our official ability to organize, for example, unions, has been curtailed tremendously. It's very, very hard to organize a union.
Oh, yes.
But unofficially, they can't take away from us our ability to organize. That's why the demonstration downtown at City Hall over the school privatization issue, that's why it's so important. And just another little small news item, 18 University of Texas student activists were arrested Wednesday evening on trespassing charges after protesting a university pilot program that could consolidate support jobs and eliminate 500 positions. So the point is, people can fight back. Are you with me on that, Tina?
I am, most definitely. I think that organizing is the key point to turning anything around into the favor of the people again. It's very difficult to do right now, nowadays, very difficult. Like even recruiting for different organizations, different activist organizations has been difficult.
Mm-hmm. So coming together is the answer. It's hard to do. Nobody said it was easy. Stephen's on line 4. Thanks for waiting. Thanks for calling Knon. Good morning,
Hello?
Stephen. Yeah, we hear you.
Hello? Okay, my name is actually David.
Well, hello, David.
I don't know how we got Stephen. Go ahead, David.
Okay, I just want to make quick comments here. Okay, first of all, the young lady by the name of Tina, I don't know what her age is, but I'm
20.
impressed with what she's 20?
I'm 20, yes, sir.
Okay, I was impressed with what she said about basically the waiters and waitresses, and a lot of people, they don't understand the work that you all do, and they don't really appreciate it. Because you all are providing the people that come in there for, lunch, dinner, or whatever. You're providing us with a service, basically a comfort that we can't provide for ourselves at that time because we may be too tired or whatever. I always make it a point to, whenever I go in the restaurant, whenever, to tip the waitress or the waitress $10 to $20 every time.
Wow.
Thank you for that, David.
You're on your feet all the time, and you do a lot of work. We make a mess sometimes when we go in there.
Yes.
We really do. I don't, but I see it. And you all work hard, and I appreciate you myself. And because I appreciate you and what you're doing at such a young age, it makes me feel good. So after I'm done, I need someone to give me the information that I need. That I'm going to be in Dallas next week. I'm going to bring $100 check for your show.
All right.
Thank you, David.
That is great. Get his name, Nell. Because we're going to be doing the fund pledge next week, and we're supposed to raise $1,000. It's pretty hard to do. 972-647-1893, but I don't really think there's going to be time for another caller. We're just about out of time. Tina, would you like to summarize anything of your thinking of that's happened over the past hour?
I just think that everybody needs to get on board with this minimum wage being lifted. I think, thank you for David for calling and saying that. Anybody who's listening out there, please be gentle with your waitresses because they are making $2.55 an hour. Yeah,
there's a really good song by Kenny Winfrey called "Please Tip Your Waitress."
Yeah, is there?
Uh-huh.
Let's play it. I'm just kidding.
We don't have it, but Bonnie had to leave a little early because she's on her way down to the City Hall to help demonstrate against the privatization of the public schools. We'll be at most of these things that are coming up, and we hope you'll get organized along with us. Hope you'll continue to listen, and we thank Knon for letting us talk about workers' issues, and we appreciate you for having listened.
Thank you.
Back next week.
Knon 89.3 FM in Dallas and Fort Worth, the voice of the people.
Business owners, tell KNON's listeners about your business. You can put your business or event on KNON. KNON currently has space available to run announcements for you. Tell KNON's listeners about your goods, services, nightclub, concert, or event. Help keep the voice of the people on the air while putting your information on the air. KNON's been named the #1 radio station in Dallas by both the Dallas Observer and D Magazine. Put your business with Dallas's #1 station. Call now for more information at 214-828-9500, extension 227, or extension 233. For more information, go to KNON.org and click on the Run Spots on KNON page. It's a great way for your business to support community radio while letting more people know about you.